Had you ever just stopped and wondered how far back your family name goes? I mean, not just a couple of generations, but maybe 1,000 years? Or how about 3,000? Today, we are going to unlock some incredible hidden records to trace the epic journey of one single family clan across millennia.
I mean, really think about it. Your last name isn't just a label. It's this living, breathing connection to the past. It's a story that's just waiting for someone to tell it, linking you to people and places you've never even met. It's your own personal slice of history.
So for this explainer, we're zoning in on one specific name, Byun. And to be very clear, we're talking about the Byun written with this character, Byun. We're going to follow its trail all the way from ancient dynasties right up to the modern day, piecing together a truly incredible story of royalty, migration, and survival.
All right, let's dive right in. But before we kick off this expedition, we need to get on the same page about how we're going to read these ancient maps and records. You know, history isn't always as black and white as it seems in a textbook.
So here are a few really important things to keep in mind. First, a lot of the texts we're looking at, they were edited or completely rewritten centuries after the events actually happened, especially after the Shang dynasty. That means there's always a chance of bias creeping in. Second, the writing style itself is really subtle. It often implies things instead of stating them as facts. Also, and this is a big one, we won't be using the word China to talk about the time before the Qing dynasty, because the concept as we know it didn't exist yet. We'll be talking about specific states, like the state of Shang. The goal here is to understand the amazing story these records are telling us, while remembering it might not all be 100% literal fact.
And that leads to this crucial point. We're focusing on the history of a people, not the history of a piece of land defined by modern borders. Think of it like this. The history of Goryeo, Baekje, and Silla belongs to the Korean people, even though their lands once stretched deep into what are now other countries. It's the same reason we talk about Native American history as its own story, not just a footnote in U.S. history. Lumping all the history that happened inside today's borders into one country's story, well, that can be pretty misleading.
Okay, with all that important context set, let's officially begin the hunt. Where does the story of the Byun clan even begin? Well, the trail starts with one single 1,000-year-old book.
And here it is. This is the Baek Sang, which translates to the Book of 100 Surnames. It was written way back in the early Northern Song dynasty, about 1,000 years ago. It's one of the oldest books of its kind, and inside we find our very first clues. Now, what's interesting is the Baek Sang gives us 3 possible origins for the Byun name. One is pretty recent, from the Qing dynasty. Another traces it way back to a vassal state in the ancient Shang dynasty. But it's the first theory, the one connecting the Byuns to a royal line, that is the most widely accepted, especially by the Korean Byun clans. So let's follow that trail.
So the story goes like this. It all starts with a man named Eyoung. He was a son of Duke Pyong, a ruler in the state of Song. Now Eyoung had a courtesy name, kind of like a formal nickname, and that name was Byun, Byun. Years later, his grandson became a really important official, and as a sign of respect, adopted his grandfather's distinguished courtesy name as the family's official surname. And just like that, the Byun clan was born.
And this isn't just some abstract legend. It's grounded in a real place. This map shows us the state of Song back in the spring and autumn period, over 2,500 years ago. It was right here, in what's now Henan province. This place was the cradle of the Byun clan.
And check this out. We can actually see the royal connection. This family tree traces the lineage all the way from Mijung, who is the second ruler of Song and the son of a Shang dynasty king, down 17 generations to Duke Pyong. And right there, that's his son, Eyoung, the man whose name would literally echo through the centuries.
But, you know, having an origin story is just the beginning. From that small state, the Byun clan set off on an incredible journey that would cross huge territories and outlast entire dynasties. Their migration basically started as soon as their story did.
So, after the state of Song eventually fell, the family started to move. During the Qin and Han dynasties, we can see them spreading out from their ancestral home in Changshu. They moved into nearby regions like Hebei, Shandong, and Shanxi. This was really the first big chapter of their great journey. And during this time, a few members of the Byun clan really made a name for themselves. The records mention people like Byun Tong, Byun Bong, and Byun So. But maybe the most famous, or infamous story, is about Byun Yang. He was a governor known for being just unbelievably brilliant and a great speaker.
So brilliant, in fact, that the powerful warlord Cao Cao, a major player in the Three Kingdoms era, had him killed, supposedly out of pure professional jealousy.
Wow!
The chaos of the next few centuries pushed the clan to move again, this time further west. A lot of them settled right here, in Longxi County. So why there? Well, it was a smart move, it was a stable place, and more importantly, it was far away from all the non-stop wars happening in the Central Plains. Longxi became a new, powerful home base for the clan.
But stability, as we know, never seems to last. From that period, through the Sui and Tang dynasties, a perfect storm of disasters hit. More war, massive floods from the Yellow River, and terrible epidemics. All of this forced another huge migration. This time, they headed south, running for the safety and fertile lands of the Jiangnan region.
Okay, now this is where the story gets absolutely fascinating. Look at these maps. The red lines show the Byun clan's migration routes. Now look at the territories of the Three Kingdoms of Korea, Goryeo, DrJBHE, and Silla. You can see their land stretched way beyond the Korean peninsula, deep into what we now call Eastern China. The Byun clan's journey took them directly through lands that were part of these powerful Korean kingdoms. Their histories aren't separate stories happening at the same time. They are deeply woven together on the exact same land.
So after centuries and centuries of moving, where did they finally settle? Well, that journey that started in Hannan, went through Gansu, and then spread all over the south, it led to this. And this number today is just staggering. Roughly half, 50% of all members of the Byun clan in the People's Republic of China live in one single province, Jiangxi.
So we've just traced a journey of over 2,500 years. We've seen a family born from royalty, scattered by war, and who then resettled across an entire continent. So, what's the big takeaway from this epic story?
I mean, this timeline really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? From their beginnings in the 8th century BC, to their move west, their huge push south, and where they are today. It's just a remarkable story of resilience, spanning something like 100 generations.
But, and this is probably the most important but, we have to circle back to what we said at the beginning. We need to look at these records with a critical eye. In fact, the source material itself gives us this piece of advice. It says the earliest parts of this history are best seen as a really compelling historical story, not as a strictly verified historical record. The story is incredibly powerful, but we have to remember its telling has been shaped by time.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. When we read history, whose story are we really reading? This whole deep dive into the Byun clan reminds us that history isn't static. It's a living narrative, shaped by migration, rewritten by the winners, and kept alive in records that we always have to read with a ton of curiosity and a healthy dose of skepticism. It's a story not just about one family, but about how all of our histories get written.